That EA Sports 2025 game looks pretty impressive. However, Josh Pate, if you go to his Twitter feed, and he is showing a little bit of gameplay, game tape of the top 25 teams. It looks incredible. I mean, when Florida State, when the Seminoles, their entrance onto the football field and the fans are in the stands, holy smokes, that is intimidating. He has shown Notre Dame, Penn State, the top 25. He showed Michigan just a little bit ago. And he's got Michigan, the defensive tackles, the great defensive tackles of Michigan, abusing the Gophers' offensive line. Hitting Max Brosmere. Going up and down the field as they choose against my beloved Golden Gophers. And at the very end, the Michigan Wolverines players are carrying the little brown jug off the field. Just in that 55-second clip, my heart broke once again. It looks so real. Wow. Unbelievable. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to support this College Football Rebel Outpost channel with a donation, hit the $, make a comment, and I will get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody on this Saturday lunchtime PATC show. Welcome everybody, one and all, into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith, Jackson Parkway, and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid, PATC community. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. It's going to be a very simple Saturday PATC lunchtime show. I have an update from BTM and Associates. Now, who are they, Greg? They've been with me from the start of my journey into reporting on college football. They've been with me since 9 years. Well, yeah, 9 years. Let's just say 9 years. BTM and Associates. BTM is short for Big Ten Man, and his associates. They are mostly money perch people. They sit on a perch. They've got money, and they are people who at times hold a little bit of power when it comes to influencing decisions, and sometimes they have the power to have access, and they have a large network. BTM and Associates are, of course, as I reported in 2022, they were the ones who it's why I was able to break the USC Big Ten story. The leak came out of Los Angeles from a money perch and went to Big Ten, and then they gave me the story for motivations that you can go back and recapture if you go back and watch episode 22 of this program in August of 2022. So, and they've also, there have been other stories. We were the ones that broke the Notre Dame men's hockey team talking to the Big Ten way back, and then it happened. They were part of the associations. This is why we broke a crazy story about PJ Fleck becoming the Minnesota Golden Gopher head coach. That's also in the Los Angeles Times. It was a crazy story. Ask anybody on Minnesota 247. They have been instrumental in guiding PATC on where a lot of stories are going in college football. They're not infallible. No, nobody knows everything. Nobody has a crystal ball. it is a different angle, a different obviously a different source than the chatter behind the curtain. Different people, different spots, not the same jobs. And, you know, I really haven't done a show. Again, the Florida State money perch, who told us in December 26, 2022, that 2 months from now, Florida State was going to make a public statement. It happened. The Florida State money perch told us that in the first quarter of 2024, the declaratory statement was going to be made by Florida State. It did not quite happen in the first quarter of 2024. It happened 9 days prior. But he told us all that in 2022. The Arizona State money perch nailed the Pac-12 story from the moment it started to the moment it ended. That is part of, they have become a part of the BTM and Associates. Just to let people know, I know a lot of you know what I mean when I say BTM and Associates, but we have new people joining our YouTube channel all the time. So we had one big, long discussion last night. And very, very interesting information. Very interesting information. And I did not want to waste any time. I know a lot of people knew that I was at a meeting. I put it out there that I was at a meeting, like I used to do all the time when I did not have a YouTube channel. And I didn't want to waste any time. I wanted to get going. Let's do a PATC lunchtime. And I'm going to report to you what the discussions were about last night. Kerry Gold knows Notre Dame is going to stay independent, and then the Big Ten can go after the all-powerful North Carolina, Stanford, and or Cal. Good luck, Gold knows. Thank you for your super chat, Kerry Gold knows. Thank you for your continued support of our college football YouTube channel. There is some good news that I would consider it really, really good news for the Seminole and Tiger fans. It may be nothing new, but they did confirm something last night that I would take it as good news. So just hang on, we'll get to that. Little Brown Jug is staying here, Greg. Somebody else made a comment. We already have the Little Brown Jug. Hey, Michigan. Hey, Greg, Michigan's owned. I know that. But every time Michigan beats Minnesota, you carry the Little Brown Jug off the field. And I'm watching that. I'm watching that in a video game. 55 seconds. I just wanted to see how the game, I just wanted to see the visuals of it. It was beautiful. Ann Arbor, the big house. But you didn't have to show me that in a 55-second clip. You could have showed Michigan, Indiana, Michigan, Purdue, Wolverines and Buckeyes. You could have done anything you wanted. Anything you wanted. EA Sports and Josh Pate. But you showed me against the Gophers. Loveland scoring a touchdown. It looked so real. I just went through a devastating loss, and it's a video game. But that's my heart sank. That Little Brown Jug, go to Josh Pate We'll get into the we'll get into the I know, Greg, get on with it. Get on with it. Just give me a moment, okay? Go to Josh Pate's Twitter feed and go look at the Michigan gameplay. Go look at the very end when Michigan is carrying off the little Brown Jug. They've got the little Brown Jug perfect. That is the little Brown Jug. Even the numbers written on the side of the little Brown Jug, the numbers are correct. The score, I don't know, most of you don't know what the little Brown Jug is. It's the jug that gets played for Michigan, Minnesota. The numbers on the side of the jug correlates to the scores of past game. It looks, both sides of the jug is different colors. Michigan colors, Minnesota colors. It's been this way forever. This jug, I don't know. It looks so real that my golden gopher heart that has 1,000 scars, never going to be healed up. It just got bludgeoned again. Looking at a 50 whatever second clip on Josh Pate Twitter feed. So that's how the day has started. That is how the day has started. Ah, jeez. Okay, first of all, let me go through a quick roll call, and then we're going to get to BTM and Associates. The meeting, the talks went down, and we got some information that I would love to pass on to you all. Dr. L. Smith is in the house. R. Webb is in the house. John Till, Kyle Visser, Christopher Stanley, Doctor is in the house. The Walking Geek, Matt Higgins, Ryan Brooks, thanks for coming on in. R. Webb, Randy Taylor, the Buckshot Kid. Old Dad, yo, is here. Preston from Greensboro is here. Big Ears Bo is here. Friends Call Me Sean, Roger Abbott, Brandon Strickland, Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane is in the house. Boy, there's a lot of people here. It's going to take me a while. Foodie Memphis, thanks for coming on in, watching it live for the very first time. You're never going to be the same again. Foodie Memphis, you will never be the same again. KS Bear Fan is in the house. Ed the Cat TV, ECU Pirates, thanks for joining us. The Architect, Humble, Bumble, Duck is here. Caleb Ramirez has come on in. Ray is back. Kyle Visser, Steven Vitt, Jeff Morgan, Mr. Mountaineer, Ryan Matson, Sky Yuma, Bob Swanger, Benjamin Griffin, Vox Quindaro, Xavier Wolf, College Football is Pain. Awesome Lawson Clips, Mr. Louisville Cardinal is in the house. Michael Uten, Jay Go Blue, the Hot Guy is here. Zach Mock, Les Austin Jr., Tracy, FSU, Gold Nose, T-Ducks, CFB Plus, Rod Nix, Christopher Shannon, Rob SHK, Baylor Bears in the house, LFG, Abe is in the house, Sean is here, Kenner Bowman, Nathan Wet Blanket, again Rock and Rant, Laura Weiss, Texas Tech, Red Raider, Tumasta, Front Runner, Roger Hayes, I might have missed a lot of people, I apologize. MGC Sooner, Edward, the Auburn Tiger, here we go. Vince No is in the house. Adrian Rodriguez is here. Michael McDonald is here. David M. Xavier Wolf, C. Montgomery. Okay, let's get to it. First of all, let's get through a couple little items here. Florida State University Board of Trustees, a meeting is set up July 22nd. It's a Zoom meeting. It's an open session meeting, so people are going to be able to watch it. It's interesting. First of all, it is starting 9 o'clock Eastern time in the morning, July 22nd. And if you notice, July 22nd is the day that the ACC starts, right? Their media days. And again, if you go look at the meeting, this looks like it's going to start maybe an hour and a half, hour before the ACC media days kick off. But then again, if you look at item 4, open forum for Board of Trustees, Mr. Peter Collins, the chair, that item number 4 is if there's going to be any juice squeezed out of this orange, I shouldn't say orange, this is Florida State, my apologies. If there's going to be anything juicy coming out of this, it's going to be item number 4, right? And item number 4 is probably going to be, well, right at the time of the ACC media kickoff, right? I don't know what's going to happen. Don't know what's going to transpire. Don't know. Just interesting. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to be probably, I don't know, we may do a live stream of it. We've done it before where everything's went pear-shaped and nothing happened in the meeting. We've struck out before here at Peek Around the Corner. We might as well strike out again and keep an eye on reports coming from the ACC media days and watch this live. We're going to try to do it. We are going to try to do it. Yeah, Expedition Greg, Leon County also has a hearing for the Attorney General July 22nd. There's a lot of stuff going on. This seems to be what I would consider big news. Louis A. Bledsoe III is announcing his retirement effective July 1st, 2025. Judge Bledsoe has served as a business court judge since 2014, as a chief judge since 2018. Interesting. Louis A. Bledsoe is the judge presiding not only the Florida State ACC case that is going on in Mecklenburg County, but he's also the judge that is presiding over ACC versus Clemson in Mecklenburg County Business Court. January 1st, 2025 is almost here. I don't really think this is good news for the ACC, because this will probably, I'm not sure, but it probably will at least somewhat delay some proceedings in Mecklenburg Court. So the rush to a decision, a rush to judgment, a rush to a judgment on these cases. Remember, there's a race going on in Mecklenburg County, Leon County, Pickens County, and the Mecklenburg track just got slowed down, I believe, eventually, because Louis A. Bledsoe is retiring. There's going to have to be a handoff. If there's not a settlement before January 1st, right? If there's not a final judgment from Louis A. Bledsoe by the end of the year, and I don't know how that could even happen. They're not even starting. We haven't even gotten into discovery. There's so much to this that hasn't even begun. So Louis A. Bledsoe, now maybe they have a handoff between Bledsoe and another judge that starts before January 1st. So the next judge gets read up on everything that has transpired before. I don't know. Now, Immaculate just said the UNC trustees regular meeting for July 17th has been removed. And now the UNC trustees special meeting is on the 15th. Immaculate, are you able to is somebody able to provide me a link? Oh, Immaculate Howard. Immaculate is way ahead of keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. Okay, we'll see. I have it up there. The agenda isn't... I don't know if there's any room in that agenda. They look like they have it pretty... I don't think it has... It doesn't look like, at first blush, that it has anything to do with conference affiliation or anything that goes along with that. But we'll keep an eye on that as well. Thanks for the heads up, Immaculate. Appreciate it. We'll keep an eye on that one, just like we keep an eye on all these meetings. They still have the 17th meeting posted. Okay, let's get to BTM and his associates. Oh, boy. Eisman 57, Mr. Hawkeye, Greg should stop crying about the little brown jug and simply steal it like he did Floyd. We're going to do the best we can. Michael Monk, thank you so much for your kindness, for your generosity. Holy smokes. Big super chat. Thank you so very much. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on here, Michael Monk. Wow. Thank you so very much. Okay, let's get to the story, guys. I know you guys got a lot to do. It's a Saturday lunchtime. You want to spend it with your family and your friends. First, Notre Dame, Stanford. according to BTM and Associates, Notre Dame will not be the first one that does anything when it comes to getting out of the ACC. No way, no how, it ain't happening. They're not going to be the one that pulls the cord. They're going to react, but they're not going to be the ones that, they're not going to step out. They don't have the motivation. They don't have the institutional ability to even do it. It's not going to happen. Notre Dame, Stanford, not imminent. Not gonna. That has always been in the mix. Now remember, these BTM and Associates are the ones that helped me break the Notre Dame going to the Big Ten hockey. They've got a pretty good idea of what Notre Dame is. They're not going to pull the cord. Whatever Josh Pate is teasing about pushing the buttons and pulling the levers, Notre Dame is not T-Rex in this story. If they are, you know what we'll do here, peek around the corner, we'll take a big L. But that's not what, according to BTM and Associates, that's not what this is about. It's not about Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they are the number one targets for the Big Ten, but they're not the number one domino. Or they're not the biggest domino. It's not going to be, they're not going to be the first one that falls. And let me explain. Carrigo knows Notre Dame will keep the Big Ten dreaming. No way they leave NBS money. Enjoy the L. Thank you for the super chat. Carrigo knows. Now, they did not say that Notre Dame, they're just saying that they're not going to be the first one to pull the cord. What they believe is Florida State and Clemson, as I think we all believe this, we have for a long time, is going to get out of the ACC. Don't know how, don't know how much it's going to cost, whatever, but they're going to get out. There's no question about it. And I don't know if I am using this phrase correctly or not, but I'm going to use it. Water seeks its own level. Florida State and Clemson received enough good information in their third-party talks to know, when they did a risk-benefit analysis, to know that it's more risky not to go into the courts than it is to go into the courts. And we talked about it for months. They hired consulting firms. They spent money on this. They spent money on the lawyers to develop a best plan. There was no magic potion to get out. They had to go in the courts. They had to fight this. They gain leverage. And I think they're doing a really good job. But they received enough positive data, information, third-party talks. However, well, that's the good news. And really that news is better than the bad news is bad. There really is no bad news except for, as we have said here on May 23rd, Florida State and Clemson are not the number one targets for the Big Ten or for the SEC. We've been saying that since May 23rd. Water will seek its own level. This is eventually going to be known by everybody. I know we've been saying it since May 23rd. Now you're starting to see people kind of go, oh, those Big 12 third-party, those were real. Florida State is developing other options. Oh, really? We reported on those Big 12 third-party talks 2.5 weeks ago to you. Here's the thing. Clemson and Florida State are going to get eventually what they need to compete at the highest levels, because they are too valuable of programs not to get it. Don't know what umbrella it's going to be under. Don't know if it's eventually going to be the SEC. Probably not the Big Ten, but maybe for one of those schools. But eventually they're too valuable. The free market. This is what Clemson and Florida State wants. They want to get out there. They want their freedom. They want to be bid on. They want to look at all options. All options. BTM and Associates, they went there because they've been talking to people down there. They just want to get out there because they know if they get out of that grant of rights that go to 2036, their value, their true value is going to be met some way, somehow. They're not the number one target of the Big Ten, nor the SEC. This is also going to be very apparent. You're starting to see it. Now, look, it's hard. College football peek around the corner. You know, we like to try to do the best we can to get you the information, the accurate information before, a lot of times we swim against the current. We've done it in every story we've ever broken. And we're doing it again now. Florida State and Clemson are eventually going to get what they deserve, their true value. And it's a lot. It's a lot more than they're getting now. How they get from here to there, the story isn't, we don't know. We don't know exactly what they're going to land on. It was expressed, it was told, it was said that, they're going to be, if they have to be innovative, they will. And they're going to have the opportunity to do so. It might be, look, one of these scenarios that we got a lot to get through. But I want to spend time on this. One of the scenarios that people have been talking about is the dissolution theory. Where now it would have to be like 10 schools if you want an even number. Because now SMU is a voting member, that's 16, whatever. Let's just 10 schools. The dissolution theory is 10 schools vote to dissolve the conference and right? They dissolved the conference. Now they're free of their gore. We've been talking about that. I'm not a big believer in that, okay? BTM and Associates are not a big believer in that either. In fact, they say it ain't happening. However, I was told that's not the option. That's not the option that Ross Dellinger speculated on. That's not it. Great. I was told last night that the option, the true option, Clemson and Florida State have options. But the true option when it comes to the ACC schools is No. Florida State and Clemson gain more and more leverage. They think it's going to happen eventually through Pickens County, where Clemson's going to be the one that breaks it. But whatever. They're not, well, I shouldn't say none of them are lawyers. But they're not looking at it from... The option is that Florida State and Clemson, they crack the ACC, they get that leverage, they get that pathway, bam, it's there. And whatever the money is, it's there. Whatever, it's probably going to be lower if they really... but they get their pathway out. They get their freedom out. And then at that time, not before, but after they get their freedom, now it's, hey, other ACC schools, maybe not even 10 of them, don't need 10 of them anymore, right? Only need 8 because you're not voting to dissolve the conference. You might not even need 8, but you might pick up a couple somewhere else. But whatever, probably 8. 8 AC schools. And now we form our option, our new conference. So it's the same result as the dissolution theory, but you're not voting to dissolve the conference. You just now have a pathway to get out and enter into a new conference, 8 ACC schools. That is something that Clemson and Florida State would love because they believe that is a possibility where they're going to make a whole lot more money in the next 15 to 20 years if they instead staying in this certain going to 2036. So this is an option that Clemson and Florida State are looking at. It's a new, reconfigured, reconstructed ACC. But the other 6 schools would have to do what Florida State and Clemson's done. Whatever that money is, whatever that pathway is, that's the option. Not dissolution theory, but a reconfigured, reconstructed ACC. This is what they believe that Josh Pate was talking about. They may be wrong. I have no idea. We've gone through so many different possibilities. We're just guessing here on trying to figure out what Josh Pate meant. That's what they believe. It's not about dissolving the conference. It's not about going to the court. Not about voting. It's about, the grant of rights is not as tight as everybody thought it was because the media rights agreement uses terrible language. It says when it is a member institution of the ACC, Clemson is really, they might be on the verge of cracking this thing, bringing the ACC to a settlement. And when they do, the BTM and Associates believe there's going to be a path for certain other ACC schools to get out. But that's not the only option. Clemson and Florida State could have the option of going to the Big 12. Big 12 is going to have to belly up to the bar. But there's no doubt. There is zero doubt that this is an option that Florida State and Clemson are pursuing to have another option. Why not? Why not? When they get out, when they have the freedom to get out, when they have whatever the cost is, why not be able to say to the other ACC schools, look, we'll leave you guys high and dry. We'll go to the Big 12. Of course they're building another option. And the Big 12 is going to have competition. They're going to have to belly up to the bar to get Florida State and Clemson, who would change their value instantly. Florida State and Clemson would bring in a higher percentage of college football playoff money to the Big 12 on day one. Again, I want to get back to something. Florida State and Clemson are going to get what they deserve. Their value is going to win out at some point. And it might not even be in this realm. It might be in a Super League realm where they're going to be part of the Super League. But we're not going to even get into that discussion today. I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to confuse the message. Florida State and Clemson are going to get where they want to go. But I don't think it's in the way that since May 23rd, it might not be under the umbrella of the SEC, and it's very unlikely, very, very, very unlikely it's going to be under the umbrella of the Big Ten. I know I have to get to super chats, but I want to get to something else here. Woo! I want to get to North Carolina. You know what? Let's get to the super chats. I don't want to. I am so humbled that anybody would want to donate to this channel, so we better get to them. Please be patient with me. Again, if you just arrived, this is BTM and Associates, given what they believe is the lay of the land. They had a lot of information. Some of it I can't say, but I think I'm given enough to where people, I hopefully you're getting something out of this. Has been. Note, Dellinger says salary cap will go up to $28 million from $22 million first reported. More pressure on low revenue programs. How Super Leaguer forms. Is that a new article from Dellinger today? Is there a link to that? Let me know. We know that salary cap is always going to continue to go up. I mean, they might even officially I think they do have it officially indexed to the total average of money, of revenue created by all of Power Conference. No, is it Power Conference or all of FBS? I don't remember. But they've got it, that it's going to keep going up regardless. Thank you, Has Been, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. John Teal, Florida State, Clemson, Miami went to the Big 12. Is it a Big 3? If that happened, sure. I don't think that, if that happened, yes. Thank you for the super chat, John. I do appreciate your continued generosity. Daniel Gorby, thank you for your super chat. And another one. Holy smokes. Florida State has 3 times the TV viewership of North Carolina. How does Fox tell Big Ten we want Florida State over North Carolina? We'll get to that. Daniel. Because we're going to go right into North Carolina right now. Brandon Strickland, thank you so very much for your generosity. Daniel, I will get to that in a moment. Kerry Gold knows my next door neighbor is a huge Notre Dame booster. He laughed when I brought up Notre Dame joining the Big Ten. He said it was fake news to him. I think he would know. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows. I do appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity, number 1, and your passion, number 2, and your Seminole love, number 3. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows. Ricky gifted a membership. Holy smokes. And Renee Roca is the one. Renee, please say thank you to Ricky for his generosity. I do appreciate both of you. And again, both of you are, once again, knighted, Cloak, and Dagger. Thank you. When you're a member of our program, you can go watch the early P, Cloak, and Dagger membership-only episodes. Give them a look when you get a chance. Okay. North Carolina. Since we just had a very generous donation about North Carolina, they are the number one target for the SEC. Now, I get it. Viewership, football brand. You make a great argument. They've won national championships. They've won ACC championships. North Carolina hasn't done any of this. And we've been through it, but I'll just make a short little comment about it. All I can tell you is North Carolina is the number one target for the SEC and the number two target for the Big Ten. It has to do a lot with completely new footprint for the SEC, a large state, the student, the demographics, the money. We've talked about the enrollment apocalypse that is going to be happening starting in 2025. The SEC is sensitive to all of this. There's going to be a battle for the students. You want a diverse student population. You want to be able to go into other states. You want North Carolina to become SEC country. Look, football is what drives the bus on realignment. No question about it. The arguments are solid, logical, but the SEC presidents loaded up on football. They're looking at the enrollment apocalypse. I get it. Florida, state of Florida, growing population, obviously, big state, obviously. The ACC can have more than one Florida. The SEC can have more than one Florida school in the conference, no question about it. But it's North Carolina that the SEC wants, the presidents want. It's no accident. It's by no accident that any time you've heard the chatter behind the curtains talk about who are the main targets for the SEC, it's always North Carolina. Because they've been told that by the SEC. Now, is the SEC doing a misdirection play? I doubt it. But it could be, right? It could be. But I doubt it. Because the BTM and this is not just coming from the chatter behind the curtain. It's coming from other places as well. Back to North Carolina. According to BTM and his associates, because Notre Dame is not going to be the first one to pull the cord, they're not going to be the first one to take action. This is known. Even the Stanford, do I still have that? Even the Stanford, no, I don't. Even the Stanford football insider on Instagram, who is legit, said Notre Dame, Stanford is a situation that is not imminent, and it's going to have to wait for everything else to happen. I was told the exact same thing by BTM and Associates last night because of Notre Dame holding back, not being the ones that first pull the cord, not being the one that first take action. It's North Carolina is the first domino in all of this. Once Florida State and Clemson finds a way for a pathway out, when they get their freedom, being eligible first for first party talks is going to help Florida State and Clemson. It definitely is not going to hurt them. They can start negotiating all their options, leveraging all their options. But the very first domino after freedom, pathway to freedom, is the SEC having to make a decision. Do we make this process easy and quick, or do we go for the most value? The SEC is going to have the very first decision to make, according to BTM and Associates. They have top. We have. We've said this before. North Carolina is a spot that we don't have difficulties getting information. Look, if the SEC goes to North Carolina and says, North Carolina State, we'll do both. That's the first domino that falls, without a doubt. Will the SEC do that? We don't know. There's opinions, but that is going to be that is what everybody is waiting on. Will the SEC go to that extent to get the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill into the SEC? Will they go there? When Florida State and Clemson, when it is cracked, when they get their freedom, when a settlement happens, no matter how it goes, no matter which way it goes, how it's achieved, the SEC is going to jump into the fray and say they're going to make a decision. How far do we go to get UNC? If they go all the way and make it so the skids are greased and it's North Carolina State, then the rest of the dominoes will fall pretty quick. Pretty quick. If the SEC doesn't want to go to that extent, and they very well may not, now we're going to have a whole lot of different talks, a whole lot of first party talks, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be quick. We're going to have stories coming from all over the place. The SEC is their decision on North Carolina and how far they want to go is going to have a dramatic effect on all the other domino pieces and how fast or slow they will fall. It's all about North Carolina, according to BTM and Associates. And after talking the chatter behind the curtain, I would suggest to you that they're probably in somewhat of agreement. And this is why you see such a void. They're not even they're hardly even speculating. Besides saying North Carolina is the number one target for the SEC, besides saying that, North Carolina, Virginia, besides they haven't said anything else for months. And I think because they know that first domino, what the SEC decides, how aggressively to pursue it, how quickly to get it done, affects so many other dominoes going forward. And I've never had it really said to me in that way. But that is where BTM and Associates believe. This is what they believe North Carolina believes. North Carolina, they may not have to do a whole lot of work in this. If the SEC calls them, after North Carolina knows what the cost of it would get out of the conference, if the SEC pulls the trigger and says, we'll take you and your Board of Governors' brother, North Carolina State, then it's all a done deal. And then what happens after that? If it's a yes after that, then an ACC without North Carolina, then, Virginia, could they be part of the SEC? Then you got Clemson and Florida State. Now they're going to see if they have that option to join the SEC. And I believe at that point, Notre Dame, BTM and Associates believe that Notre Dame will finally pull the trigger. But it's that first big piece, SEC's decision. Because if they do not want to take North Carolina State, now Big Ten gets into the game with North Carolina. They get into the game. And North Carolina and Notre Dame and then Florida State and Clemson are going to see where the dominoes fall, and they're going to build out their options. They're doing it now. Florida State and Clemson are building out their options now. If the SEC won't take North Carolina and North Carolina State and the Big Ten won't, Florida State and Clemson are going to say, North Carolina, you can have North Carolina, North Carolina State, and us too, and 4 other ACC schools, Miami, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and possibly Duke. That's our 8 team. Let's go forward. Florida State and Clemson have options, even if they're not the number one target for the SEC and the Big Ten. And they're going to get their value by hook or by crook. I know there is a lot of people who say, Greg, you on May 23rd, you fell for misinformation. You fell for it. And now you're the captain of the misinformation ship. I am not. I have heard a little bit of a different language, a little bit of a different dialect, a little bit of a different setup. But when the BTM and Associates are not the chatter behind the curtain. And they're laying out the same structure as the chatter behind the curtain is laying out, even though they haven't gone public. You're starting to see a little bit of a seepage of this narrative. You're going to start seeing it more, and I think it's going to mirror what I just told you here on July 13th. Just like what I told you on May 23rd is starting to seep, what I said on July 13th is going to start being somewhat of the story. Clemson and Florida State are two high-valued programs not to have options. They're going to get where they're going to need to get to compete at the highest level of athletics. They're too big, they're too valuable, and that's not going away. It just probably won't be, it's not going to be the Big Ten. Most likely. And the SEC has decisions to make, and they've got decisions to make before they get to the decision making of Florida State and Clemson. This is what I just said, I strongly believe, I have reasons to believe that this will become clear at some point in the not too distant future. And I've been saying this since May 23rd. But I haven't been saying it's going to come clear this is something new. Just everybody, look, I'll take the L's on all this stuff. You know I will. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know SEC's decision. We are pretty sure that Notre Dame right now is nothing is imminent. They're not going to be the one that pulls the cord. They're not going to be the ones that take the first action. Florida State and Clemson are definitely building up options. They know their value. They're feeling good. It just might not be in the spot that you think that they were going to go to a month ago. Definitely 3 months ago. Definitely 6 months ago. Big 12 is going to have to belly up to the bar. They're going to have to offer everything that Florida State, Clemson wants because they're probably going to have other options. Independence is an option, but probably not one of the top ones, but they're going to use it, right, in negotiations. USC did the same thing with the Big Ten. They said, we can go independent. Big Ten gave USC everything they wanted. Florida State and Clemson are going to be in the catbird seat. They want to get out. They want their freedom. They want to have meaningful conversations. They want to use their leverage, their great brands, their great value. But it's not a done deal that they're in the Big Ten. That is complete BS. Not true. Not even close to being true. It's not a done deal. There's no handshake. There's no handshake, wink, wink, nod, nod that they're in the SEC. Not true. They have a chance to get to the SEC, but they're building out other options as well. I hope this, now I know there's going to be misreporting on what I said on Saturday, July 13th. I know there is. People are going to want to put their own words into what I just said. That's fine. I don't know what Josh Pate's pushing the button and pulling the lever is. I don't know what it is. But BTM and Associates do not believe it's about Notre Dame. They are not ready to do anything. But if it happens, Stanford is a very strong possibility to the Big Ten. Anyways, I'm going to go to your comments, go to your super chats, open up the phone lines, Thanks for joining us on this Saturday lunchtime show. Brandon, Strickland, Greg, you talk about how relationships matter. Is it possible Florida State and Clemson split up and pair up with North Carolina to go to the Big Ten or the SEC? Yes, it's possible. First of all, thank you for your membership. Once again, 1 month. Thank you, Brandon Strickland. You are here by night at Cloak and Dagger. Yes, it's possible. First of all, the SEC doesn't take North Carolina State with North Carolina. That's going to open up possibilities. There is a possibility of Florida State and Clemson going to the SEC. No question about it. It's going to take some work. It's going to take a whole lot more work for North Carolina. And then the SEC runs the risk of the Big Ten grabbing North Carolina. But it's all possible, depending that first domino is the SEC's decision on how aggressive they're going to go after North Carolina. Because if they say we'll take North Carolina State, it's a done deal. The Big Ten cannot match that. The Big Ten will not do that. And now suddenly the SEC has North Carolina State. Now do they go grab Florida State, Clemson, or are they going to go Virginia and Florida State? I don't know. But Florida State is going to need something. Again, Florida State and Clemson are going to see how the dominoes fall, right? On that, everyone's going to be watching that first domino. How aggressive does the SEC go after North Carolina? Do they make it easy for everybody? Okay, so that's the first one. And then how it happens after that, we're going to have to find out. Relationships are incredibly important in every realignment wave, in every single one, this one especially. And I said it, Florida State, look, I've been saying this since May 23rd. Florida State relationships with North Carolina, with Notre Dame, build those up. Build those up, whatever you got to do, send flowers, whatever you got to do, chocolate, whatever you got to do. Same with Clemson. And we're being honest, guys. This landscape that we're looking at it's going to start, this is going to become more and more and more apparent. It already a little bit is. It's starting to, but we're giving you the peek around the corner. Brandon Strickland, thank you so much for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Kerry Gold knows, Greg, I was all in for Florida State joining the Big Ten until I see how they want to bring in all these mids. No thanks. Appreciate the super chat. Kerry Gold knows. Well, you still might get in the Big Ten. So you might have to play a bunch of mids. But all I'm saying is Florida State is not, they're not the number one target. They're not the number two target of the Big Ten. So they're going to have to wait to see how the pieces fall before them. But Florida State is going to get where they need to get, Kerry. They're going to be able to get to where they have too big a value in the free market not to get the money that is coming to them. They're going to have other options. They're going to have a few different options. Some of them they're going to have total control over. Some of them they're not going to have total control over. They received enough good information on their value to go to the courts. But they did not get a Big Ten, oh, we'll take you in, you're number 19, or SEC, you're number 17. That is not what has happened, and it hasn't happened, and it might not happen. Thank you, Kerry. I do appreciate it. Finally tuned when the ACC blows up. Where will Notre Dame schedule non-football? Well, that is that is that is why, above all else, finely tuned. That is why the Big Ten's number one target is Notre Dame. Because the Big Ten believes that Notre Dame will join the Big Ten when there's no other options for the non-football sports. The truth of the matter is how the ACC is constructed right now is just viable enough for the ACC, for Notre Dame to maintain their status as a football independent and to have all their sports except for men hockey to continue to play in the ACC. The ACC just is viable enough for Notre Dame to maintain their current status. When North Carolina leaves, and whatever else happens in North Carolina, and you know in that Florida State and Clemson are going to have options, this is where everybody in the Big Ten believes finally Notre Dame is going to flip the switch and join the Big Ten. It's why Notre Dame doesn't have to be the first to pull the cord. They don't have to be the first one to take action. And the Big Ten is not going to be the first conference to take action on the ACC implosion, because they're going to wait along with Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame's really not going to have many other choices. So this was a great question. Thank you for the super chat, finally tuned. But this is why I cannot have any chalk up on the board for the Big Ten that does not include the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. There's no way the Big Ten is going to commit to anything else except for Notre Dame and North Carolina, of course, because that's their number 2 target, knowing that they really don't have control of the North Carolina situation, but the Big Ten knowing that once the ACC implodes, Notre Dame, where are they going to put their non-sponsored sports? Well, they're probably going to put them all in the Big Ten, along with their football team. Thank you so much, finally tuned. I do appreciate the super chat and the great question. Edward Albert Tiger, once the SEC takes the soul of the ACC, Notre Dame and Stanford will join the Big Ten. It's more complicated than fans think. Okay, let's open up the phone lines. People are starting to throw elbows. Okay, here we go. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Let me know how wrong BTM and his associates got it. The They haven't gotten much wrong over the last 10 years, but we shall see.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, how you doing today, man?
Doing good.
Good. I'll try to be quick. I don't got a whole lot, except I just want to go in on one thing, and I know this whole process really starts to pull and tear at people, and emotions can really get going.
Yeah.
I've tried my best, and I know you've tried your best, which is even better than me, but I've tried to really point out to folks that, remember, these are universities that are making these decisions.
Yeah.
They're not sports teams. They're not this isn't that's just their front porch, so to speak. When we think of a school, we think as sports fans of their basketball team, their football team. We don't necessarily think of how good is the department of this particular study at that school, or who's the top tenured professor in that department over there that I could possibly work with.
Yep.
But that's what the people at the universities think of when they think of another university. And those are the people who see the president every day. And so I try to talk about this in terminology that people can kind of understand when we say there's a network pick and then there's a presidential pick when we're talking about the Big Ten. I don't know the SEC as well. I don't really know the Big 12 as well. So I'm starting to learn about it. But when it comes to the Big Ten, this is the power structure. They work with the networks. The networks don't tell them what to do. That's one of the reasons why they've probably expanded out past Fox and got NBC and CBS so they can play them off against each other. But this is what it means when there's a presidential pick. When they look at North Carolina, they don't go, their football team is mid. Yeah, they got a basketball team, but that's only 20% of the media deal. They're looking at the departments that are there. They're looking at the tenured professors that are there. They're looking at the researchers. They're looking at, as more people are going there, there's going to be more students coming out of there. And that is something for Florida, too. People wondering why Florida State would even be looked at by the Big Ten, that's a big part of it. But they also need to realize, the Big Ten has been looking at UNC for these other reasons for well over a decade, maybe 2 decades. I don't know, maybe longer than that.
Yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much work that's gone into this, so many, relationships built over time between these schools that all of a sudden when the Board of Governors comes in and does what they did, that's why it is such a big deal. And it's hard to really convey that, to say why this is such a big deal. It changes everything that the Big Ten has had to think about for, as you're saying, 30 years. Yeah. How do we get this school in that we've been working so hard? They've, Delaney went from being conference commissioner to being a consultant with North Carolina and with the conference, being the guy in between, and now he's kind of been cut loose. It's just they're in a brand new world. So that's why I say they might actually be thinking about grabbing North Carolina State, not because they think of North Carolina State more than Florida State, but they are that invested in getting North Carolina. I mean, they might not look at North Carolina State, but am I wrong in thinking that they might possibly be tossing that idea around when they're talking with each other? Just because of the value of North Carolina in their minds. And when they think North Carolina, they don't think basketball, they don't think football. They're thinking departments, department heads, who works there, students. It's kind of hard to get across. And I know people in chat are saying, well, sports matter, and it does. But just trying to help people understand why all of a sudden your school as Florida State might not be the big talking point. It doesn't mean they don't want you. It's just they understand you are the school that the networks are going to want. And at this point in time, that's the party on the other side of the table that they are negotiating with. So they can't sit here and espouse all of the great things about Florida State because they're basically just helping the person on the other side of the negotiation table. Is that what you're catching at all from some of these people you talk to? That would be my opinion. Is I don't think this means Florida State's not getting in. It just means don't expect to hear a whole lot about the Big Ten building you up, because they're just doing the networks a favor when it comes to this negotiation.
Well, look, I'm gonna be honest. The networks want Notre Dame.
Sure, they do. Yeah, and they've already agreed.
Because they've already agreed to a pay increase for every Big Ten school that's currently in the conference, plus anybody they bring on, which is Oregon and Washington. That's how much the networks value Notre Dame to join the Big Ten. So Notre Dame's target number one, and whatever Notre Dame wants to do is that's the target. So that's not like bringing on a mid. That's like bringing on their biggest target. Now, if that doesn't happen, then we'll see what the Big Ten does. But look, guys, this is about nothing's been decided, nothing's been done, but the Big Ten is looking at something else. The SEC is looking at something else. And by the way, the Big Ten, BTM and his associates, they did not say one negative word about Florida State and Clemson throughout the whole evening. It was all about they're going to get what they're going to get because they're such high value. They're going to get where they want to go, and that is money, exposure, because they're great value. It might not be where you think they're about to. This story really is different than what is being out there, but the real information is starting to come out, and hopefully people will see clearly here in a very short time. It is about TV viewership. It is about how much money you can bring for these football, for the athletic conference. But it's also about a whole bunch of other stuff. And that is, you cannot eliminate all that other stuff. And a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people, they think it's all about how many national championships you won. That is very important. But there's a whole other part of this. And I don't know what else. I've tried to put out examples. The SEC wants North Carolina guys, and boy, it's only been well, nobody has denied that. Not one person that I've talked to, that I know, even out in public, even all the reporting, North Carolina is the SEC's number one target. And it isn't, North Carolina hasn't won anything in football, okay. But all I'm telling you is what is being said. Maybe it's all one big misdirection. I don't think so. We're going to find out. We are going to find out. But if I was Florida State, Clemson, and I know they've, Clemson and North Carolina, they were holding hands. Clemson has a pretty good relationship with North Carolina. Florida State, they battled North Carolina for years. Tobacco Road versus Florida State. So that's an issue. Not to get too deep into that. That will all come out later. Anyways, go ahead, Immaculate. You can finish up.
Yeah. And to throw another scenario at this, because number one, I don't think Notre Dame is ready to come. They're, like you said, they're just standing at the door, kind of watching everyone go in to try and talk to the Big Ten, saying, hey, we're not so sure. You want us to come through this door. We're not so sure about that one. We like this one. It's like someone who's not willing to come in the door yet but wants to have a say on everyone who goes through the door. They're not ready yet. And I don't know if they ever will be. I just think they look at the Big Ten as a backup. That being said, pushing that aside, the Big Ten also has to plan for the possibility that there is never a Notre Dame. And so they have to look at other plans. Like, there is not put all your eggs in one basket type of a situation here. You got to have multiple potential plans ready to go. And one of those might require, they might not get North Carolina or Notre Dame. Like, they're two top picks they may not get. So then they have to look and say, as a university, and this is what I say, try to look at this maybe through the perspective of the people at the university and what they want. They're the ones that are talking to the president every day. That's why I bring up GT. It's not because I'm predicting GT to be in, but they are that school that people in the universities would want if it came down to, we're not getting North Carolina, we're not getting Notre Dame, Stanford. What are we going for? And then they're going to go to the networks, and the networks are going to be like, GT, really? I don't know. So what they need to do then is kind of play like they don't actually like Florida State that much, so that when the networks say Florida State with that, but we don't know we like GT, well, we don't know if we like Florida State. You have to get the networks to say fine on that combo. So you have to almost play down the value of Florida State. It's messy. And I know people are going to take that seriously, and they shouldn't. It does not mean Florida State is not valuable and doesn't have a huge, bright future if they're in the Big Ten. It's just, you got to understand, when we say they are the network pick, the Big Ten is going to be looking at another one for their business. You just got to understand how they're going to play that at the negotiation table. And that's my opinion. I could be wrong on that. And I just try to get across to Florida State folks who may be thinking that they're being slighted. Like, no, you're not. Not at all. It's just those presidents know selling you to the networks is easy. That's why we say Florida State stands for Fox Sports University. That's easy. So just remember that there's a bigger negotiation, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't know how else to say. I know some folks are getting a little riled up about this, but just understand we're in this business mode right now where these guys, I wouldn't say we're in the final phase, but we're probably getting pretty close. They're going to play this out in public too, so just try not to let it get to you too much. I still think Florida State's going to the Big Ten. I'll just leave it.
Got it. All right, sir.
All right. Have yourself a good one.
Great call. Mr. Hot Guy, phones are fine. There we go.
Call from
Chris Kenny.
Chris Kenny, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Well, I want to agree with everything the prior caller said. I don't expect you to remember every call you get on every show. But you and I have talked about this in the past, that it's more in the context of what I call the contraction chicken littles, the people who say, Northwestern and Vanderbilt and Maryland and Rutgers and this, that, and the other, they have no value. They'll be gone. The Big Ten will kick them out, or the SEC will kick them out. And I've always thought that that's wrong, because every school that one of these conferences adds has value, and the value might look different from school to school, but they all have value in different ways, and it's not always in the most intuitive one when you start talking about it in the context of college football. It's not just about football wins and losses or football viewership. It's part of a larger picture, and those things matter, obviously, but they aren't solely determinative. You and I said this about Stanford like a month ago, and I said it about Duke too, and I still believe this, that just because Stanford did not get into the Big Ten the last time doesn't mean they would never get into the Big Ten. And obviously, if Notre Dame wants Stanford, whether they're team 19 and 20 or something in some other order, it will happen. And just because Fox said no to it the first time after they'd already negotiated a multi-billion-dollar media deal with the Big Ten doesn't mean they couldn't under other circumstances. And those circumstances are one of two things. They come with Notre Dame because Notre Dame's already in the contract with a set value. So that's an easy lift at that, or much easier lift at that point to add them in together. Or, it happens 6 years from now when the contract is up on the open market and the Big Ten decides to expand with other universities that it thinks bring value in lots of different ways. And they're negotiating as a whole package again. So one way or another, I do think that universities that have a lot of value in all the ways you've described and are committed to competing at the highest level, which I obviously believe a school like Stanford, a school like Duke, and schools like Northwestern and Vanderbilt will be committed to doing, spending the money, the house salary cap or floor, or whatever you want to call it. Like, they will do that. If the University of Chicago had not elected on its own accord to leave the Big Ten in the 1940s, they'd still be in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
If the Ivy League had decided to continue to compete at the Division 1A level and said, you know what, we're going to actually compete even harder in athletics, they would, they're not going to be Alabama, they're not going to be Georgia. Okay, Stanford and Northwestern aren't Alabama and Georgia. Mm-hmm. But could they compete and be successful? Of course they could, because they have the resources to do it. And universities like that commit to excellence generally get there. And excellence looks different. It's not always the same across the board. But the idea that these schools are beholden to networks that only want the biggest football brands is, number one, not true. And at number two, understates the value that other universities bring and the commitment they're willing to bring to bear. So I've found your contrarian view, frankly, to be very refreshing. And I think it's not a surprise at all that is how this is starting to play out. That doesn't mean Florida State and Clemson do not have value. Obviously, they have value. Yeah. And I don't really believe, for that reason, that they're going to end up in the Big 12 or they're going to end up in a reconstituted ACC. I think they're going to end up in the Big 10 or the SEC at some point. But just because you aren't team 19 or 20 or team 17 or 18 doesn't mean you won't end up in one of those two conferences. But I think what people who support those schools need to recognize is that they're not the only girls at the dance, and other girls might get asked to dance too, might even ask to get danced before them. That doesn't make you ugly, okay? You just might have to wait for, the third or fourth guy to come up to ask you to dance. So what? You'll still end up there. Nobody's disputing that. So I find a lot of the kind of outrage and pearl clutching to be way over the top. It's driven by a lot of message board losers and anonymous Twitter losers. But I think everyone should just chill and let this play out. And just because other schools that you might not like get an invitation to doesn't mean you aren't going to get one. So that's my comment. I do have a question, which is something I've heard people say, and I wonder if you have insight on this, is 20 the number now? Is the SEC going to add 4 and 4 alone? Would the Big Ten add 2 and 2 alone and stop at 20? I could see good reasons for that being a yes, but I also wonder if the SEC decides to get aggressive, why not get really aggressive? If they add the North Carolina schools to get to 18, and then they add Clemson and Florida State for 20, they could stop there, I suppose. But if we're talking about, improving the footprint and generating better demographic reach, the connective tissue to North Carolina runs you to Virginia. And if you're willing to take North Carolina State to get North Carolina and you want Virginia, would you take Virginia Tech and get to 22? Would you stop at 22? If basketball holds untapped value, again, not equal value with football, doesn't mean that Duke and Kansas, for instance, have the same value as Alabama and LSU. They don't. But Alabama and LSU are off the board. If you're looking for marginal value at this point, when you go in the NBA draft or the NFL draft, the number 1 pick obviously has more value than the 30th pick. That's why the guy went number 1. But that doesn't mean you don't get value at 30. In this case, could you conceive of the SEC going to 24 with adding the Virginia schools plus Duke plus Kansas if they did that, you're the best football and the best basketball conference in America. And I don't think there's any dispute around either of those assertions at that point. You have an absolute behemoth of a television product for all seasons, right? You know, you would dominate football season, dominate basketball season. That's a thought that I had. And, you know, if the Big Ten responds by taking Notre Dame and Stanford for 20, do they stop there? Or do they add Miami and, say, Georgia Tech and stop at 22? And, you know, it's not a bad place to end up in. I think the SEC would still be better. But again, you get the right combo and the right mix of, you know, university, presidential comfort, network comfort, and they're both above 20. I don't know. Or do you think 20 is the max for now?
I don't know if 20 is the max for now. Again, it all depends on a lot of it depends on the very first domino. And also what depends on is like ESPN, right? Every time I see TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, True TV, which is under Warner Brothers Discovery, True TV, TNT, TBS. Every time I see them doing something with ESPN, the first thought I think about is SEC expansion, to be honest with you. Or even ACC, like they might have to bring on more schools to backfill. Because ESPN only has so much bandwidth themselves. And I think maybe that's why they're getting this working relationship really pumping with Warner Brothers Discovery. So that might open up the avenue of more Big Ten SEC expansion beyond just adding like 2 schools. This if and we've been told this, and I don't want to like not answer your question, but it's basically I don't think there's a magic number. I think it's, do we add value for our conference, for our current schools, for our future in a whole bunch of different metrics beyond football wins, students and everything else, marketing, branding, international students. Do we add value? Okay, then we might expand more. I don't think there's a magic number, number one. But number two, we've been told that when it comes to North Carolina, that the SEC I can't go there. My answer to your great question is I don't know. I don't know if the SEC is willing to go more than 2. I think it depends on that first decision that they have to make. In other words, let me put it this way. If somehow North Carolina would get out of their quagmire, they could go to the SEC or the Big Ten, and really at no extra cost to themselves, to be able to dislodge themselves. For whatever reason, the North Carolina Board of Governors would say, hey, we're good. For whatever reason, North Carolina State gets a small kickback, whatever that is. Let's say if North Carolina could go to the SEC, then I think the odds increase that the SEC would just expand with 2, right? Because they got the most value, they've got the value they want, North Carolina, and then they'll probably add on a Virginia, and that'll be it. But if it's North Carolina State, North Carolina, no shot against North Carolina State, the value of North Carolina shrinks a little bit, that addition, and maybe the SEC checks out what Big Ten just did with Notre Dame, and now they feel they grabbed Florida State or Clemson, something like that. So again, I can't really answer it because a lot of it goes to that first decision of the SEC. Sorry, man. Hello? Oh, you're not there.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm here. I put
I'm
myself
gonna let
on
you
mute.
go because we got a whole bunch of phone calls coming in.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate the great question. I just can't quite answer it.
No, no one can predict the future. I hear you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Bye.
Call from
Steve-O, can you hold on a moment?
Sure.
I do appreciate it. Rock and Rant super chat. If Notre Dame says not yet, and UNC says yes, I think that's what you meant. North Carolina says yes to the SEC. Who is the number one for the Big Ten? Well, I think, I know the BTM and his associates would argue heavily that if North Carolina says yes to the SEC, that Notre Dame will not say no to the Big Ten. That would be their answer. Because North Carolina not in the ACC any longer, Notre Dame's non-football sponsored sports are going to be looking for a different home, and that's most likely the Big Ten. And this is why this is why everything I've said since March 23rd is going to be found to be accurate. That Notre Dame's the number one target. North Carolina's the number one target for the SEC. So I would argue that. Now, let's say Notre Dame still says no. I don't think they would, but let's say they still say no. Then maybe the Big Ten finds its blend, the correct blend of Florida State, maybe a Florida State Miami. Then I think Florida State comes into play. Something like that. Thank you, Rock and Ram, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. There was one other comment in here on the chat that said something to the effect of, I haven't seen any SEC channels say that North Carolina is the SEC's number one target. Well, they have said it. Just Google it. Now, they haven't said it a whole lot recently, but if you Google North Carolina, number one SEC target, it's out there. I mean, Pete Thamel has written about it a couple times. Dennis Dodd has said it. Heather Dinich has said it on her when she's with Paul. It has been said quite a few times. This is a known fact. This is just something, unless the SEC is misdirecting everybody, and I've had people say that to me, I don't think so. Whether they can get North Carolina is another deal. I know the Big Ten's going to take a swing at them, but if the SEC wants to secure North Carolina right off the bat and agree to take North Carolina State, then it's a done deal, but we'll see what happens. Steve-O, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
As you know, I've tried to look at this from a business standpoint. That's why I was one of the very, very few that thought FSU and Clemson could go to the Big 12. If the SEC, talk to North Carolina and they're saying, hey, how about their brother North Carolina State? And the SEC, ESPN could say, well, we don't want North Carolina State in the SEC, but we can get them in the Big 12. How do you think that would go over?
You mean North Carolina State into the Big 12 with who?
Well, that would be as a response to the state of North Carolina wanting North Carolina in the SEC, and the ESPN would agree that we would pay them to go into the Big 12, the state to go into the Big 12.
Yeah. Interesting. I haven't heard interesting. No one has ever.
Because the fourth.
Yeah.
Because I could see them going in as the fourth spot going into the Big 12 to be number 20.
Mm-hmm. It
And
could, interesting.
Because you get to 19 and 20, I mean, they're all pretty close.
Yeah. That might alleviate some of the detachment of North Carolina leaving to the SEC. I understand what you're saying. Could be. No one's ever brought that up to me. But yeah.
That's better than paying that alimony.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Very interesting.
I would think that Greg Sankey would like your opinion on if they only go to 18 and 17 is North Carolina. How would you pick between, for number 18, stopping at 18, who would you pick between Kansas and Virginia, and why?
Yeah, I think that would be Virginia.
How come?
I think it's going to be Virginia if North Carolina can get free of North Carolina State. Period. Because I've been told that. So it's because Virginia is a connective because of relationship between North Carolina and Virginia.
Because if you look at the map.
Yeah.
If you look at the map, they're pretty well the same as far as the footprint.
Yeah.
And Virginia has had some good years in basketball. I mean, they're not quite Kansas, but they're not chopped liver. And Virginia, I was in Virginia Stadium about 7-8 years ago, and I mean, looked terrible.
Yeah.
And it just, showed to me. Virginia went in Virginia Tech the same day, and Virginia Tech was way better. It just looked like Virginia didn't care.
Yep, agreed. I would put my chips on Virginia, but Virginia may not get that opportunity either, depending on that very first question that needs to be answered by the SEC. How far are they willing to go to get North Carolina? They're in control of that situation.
All right.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, Greg.
Appreciate it. Again. Thanks for the call. Great call. Yeah, if there is a pathway out, if there is a pathway created to get out of the ACC, in which other schools can duplicate, like a North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Miami, after this incredible leverage play from Clemson.
Call from
Richard Brookins.
Can you hold on for just 1 second, please?
Sure thing.
Appreciate it. So if there's this pathway created, there's a certain whatever you have to do to get out. Florida State and Clemson have their freedom. So then Virginia, if they decide, if they could get into the Power 2 with North Carolina, if that could be the connective tissue with North Carolina, Virginia's going to have at least the ability to be in the game. And Kansas is looking at their grant of rights going out of 2031. And, Kansas is, as we reported a couple months ago now, a school that could be in play, no question, could be in play for the SEC and the Big Ten. Few years down the road that we're talking about right now, Virginia has the advantage on Kansas. But again, Virginia is not the first. Look, it could be North Carolina, Clemson. It could be North Carolina, Florida State. But Virginia has that relationship. And I think that's going to go a long ways. Again, it all goes back to the SEC's first decision on whether they want to take the whole enchilada in the state of North Carolina, to get the Board of Governors out of the way, to get everybody out of the way. Before we get to your call, sir, I got a couple very generous super chats from Carrie Gold Nose. I understand what's being said, but what's being said isn't bringing the eyeball to the TV. Who are we kidding? It's about winning football games first. Football pays the bills. You are correct, Carrie. You are. There is other things that do pay the bills, though. But yes, football drives it. Now remember, it's about winning football games. Every football game that is won, a football game is lost. So be careful not to completely have your valuations of all these universities dependent upon wins. Like Northwestern, if you're going to say they're not valued because they don't have value to the Big Ten because they don't win as many games as a Louisville, then you're narrow. You're too narrow in your look at all this. It's, every football. Not everybody can win championships. I mean, obviously that's impossible, right? Only one team a year wins a conference championship. One year a team, one team a year wins a national championship. There are incredible built-in advantages for some of these universities, depending where they are. There's all this stuff. You can't just... Now, could there be a super league created where you just take the top 48, 36, 24 football university factories and create a super league? That could happen. Very well could happen. Very well could happen 5 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now. But I gotta be in the world that I am right now. I gotta give you the information I'm telling you. It's Big Ten. Big Ten has brought in schools that are not big football factories. But man, oh man, all the universities are more wealthier than they've ever... And the gap between the Big Ten universities and the other universities when it comes to wealth has only grown. This is a Big Ten university's decisions along with their media partners. They all have a voice in it. And all of their interests have to be scratched. And that's why I keep saying Florida State going to the Big Ten is a possibility, but they're going to need somebody else to come with them to grease the skids. I'm the one that's being honest with you. A lot of people aren't. Just letting you know. Kerry Gold knows if I'm the SEC, I invite Kansas, Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, call it a day. Doing this, they would dominate football, basketball, baseball if they are smart enough to do so. I don't think Kansas is available at the time, but a Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, I don't think... Again, you got a North Carolina State issue there that might have to be satisfied. We shall see. Pretty interesting comment, Carrie. Thank you for the super chat once again and your unbelievable generosity and contributions to this channel. Caller, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
Okay, let me throw something up to you and see what sticks. A couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation, and we were talking about FSU and Clemson, the Big 12, and what it would take. And I said, well, if the Big 12 paid their way out, there would be a possibility. Now, what if you took Clemson, Florida State, Texas A&M, and Miami and put them in the Big 12? Then how could you stack up against the Power 2? Would you make it a Power 3? Something to think about, because Brett Yormark, if he was the commissioner of the ACC, FSU and Clemson would not be fighting right now in court. That man is all for his conference. Jim Phillips, on the other hand, is all for, I guess, Jim Phillips. I really can't say. But that's just something to think about, so go ahead and talk.
Yeah. I don't think Texas A&M would be interested in going to the Big 12. I would absolutely, I would personally eliminate that. That's not happening. To be honest with you, I don't think Texas A&M's leaving the SEC. I have not had one person even whisper it to me, that the people that I talk with. I know it's out there on the message boards and Twitterverse, but I have not had one show on it, one episode on it. There is nothing there as far as I know. The other school, was it Florida State, Clemson? What was the other one?
Miami.
Miami's a possibility. That is a possibility. No, that's going to. It's a possibility, but the Big 12. I mean, to have the ability to grab Florida State and Clemson, they're going to have to compete with other options that Florida State and Clemson are going to have. They're going to have to belly up to the bar. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be a dramatic decision, a difficult decision. There is a possibility that they might have to extend that grant of rights out there. I don't know. To grab those two schools might be enough to elevate their value enough as a conference. They might not need to have a third team. I don't think they would need to have a third team, but it's an interesting comment.
I was only thinking A&M simply because they supposedly hate Texas being in the SEC so bad.
Yeah, but they came from the Big 12. They wanted out of the Big 12.
Sure.
Texas A&M, they have so much exposure, so much money, so much going on there as an SEC university. I do not believe Texas A&M is going to take their baseball team out of there. I don't think Texas A&M has taken a look at the Big Ten. I think if I ever get any whisper of it, I'll have a big show on it. But I don't do that here at Peek Around the Corner. I got to have some reason to talk about something, and I have not come across that at all.
Sure. Well, I understand A&M's a long shot, but it was just a thought, to make a power too.
Yeah.
So, okay, you guys take it easy.
You got it. Appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, man. Bye.
Call from
John Grove.
John Grove. Can you hold on a moment?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I just want to show you guys something. You see, Liberty just landed a 3-star Nazar Newkirk from Greensboro, North Carolina. Newkirk decided. I'm getting an echo out of your phone here. John Grove.
Yeah.
I'm getting noise coming through your phone, like a TV's on or something.
Oh, okay. Oh, my apologies. Yeah.
Yep, no problem.
Real quick.
Liberty landed a 3-star wide receiver. Won a recruiting battle over 3 ACC schools. Again, Liberty as a G5 school is going to win recruiting battles over other Power 4 conference schools because, well, one of the reasons is they got NIL money. So Liberty is going to be a very difficult program for the other G5 schools to knock off the perch as number one. Just wanted to show you that. John Grove, go ahead. The floor is yours.
How's the audio quality now? Is it
good?
Is
Real
it better
good.
with turning on? Okay, sounds good. Okay. So this is way earlier in the show. I'll get to the realignment part in a second, but you mentioned about like the little brown jug between Michigan and Minnesota.
Yeah.
Why do they keep calling it the little brown jug when the jug is on one side blue and the other side's maroon?
Was it previously a brown? Like, what was it previously colored brown or?
Yeah, it was. It was just a jug,
Okay.
brown jug, and Michigan brought it. Michigan brought their own jug because they thought Minnesota was poisoning the water during a football game that Michigan had to drink out of when they came to Minneapolis. So that's how that whole thing started.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
That makes a little more sense. So going back to realignment, and I want to touch on the SEC. Of course, the top two options now are North Carolina and Virginia. Of course, those are foreign lands in terms of from an SEC standpoint that they haven't reached towards yet.
Yeah.
Flagship schools, of course, very lockstep with each other. But then after that, when you're talking about candidates 19 and 20, it really goes towards really kind of a battle between politics in the state of North Carolina and the state of Virginia versus what ESPN will be looking towards. Will they want to add, would they want to enhance getting the North Carolina Virginia markets by going after NC State and Virginia Tech, or maybe a North Carolina and a Duke, to potentially to keep that basketball rivalry locked in? You know, Grace Sankey, he mentioned he's all in terms of enhancing the basketball product as well. You also get more into North Carolina. I believe that's where the SEC networks. Well, excuse me. I believe that's where the SEC network's headquarters are. That's in North Carolina. So, I mean, the appeal is there to try and go for several schools, and of course, the markets there rapidly growing with Chapel Hill, Charlotte, Raleigh. You get up north to Virginia and go after around the Charlottesville region. I think part of it, maybe too, Greg, is that they're kind of looking for a move similar to what the Big Ten did in Maryland, and trying to get more towards the Washington, D.C. area market as well. So that's another opportunity for their sakes, trying to get more towards the bigger markets and lean towards more that approach. So I don't know if that's going to be case. I can't talk today. For whatever reason, I'm just walking around. My mind rushes through like a locomotive.
You're doing fine. You're talking better than I am. Go ahead.
But you want to talk about but there's the in-state politics part of it with NC State and Virginia Tech, possibly seeing if they want to get more locked into those states. But would they also want to appeal towards more television exposure by getting Florida State or Clemson? Nobody knows what could truly happen there, but I think the SEC has already enough football brands to already entice the eyeball viewers with now not just for brands, but the TV slots as well, with ESPN and ABC, and who knows, maybe even TNT might get into that a little bit more if the SEC goes for several of those teams and maybe goes to a 9-team schedule. So that on its own is a little bit interesting. But I'll tell you this, from a Big 12 standpoint, I think I'm feeling a lot more confident about landing Clemson than I was over the past few months. Because now you're talking about Clemson. Likely, I don't see how but unless if it's the football appeal, of course. If there is no football appeal towards getting Clemson, with South Carolina blocking them or Tennessee, several of those schools, what are the chances now that they get into the Big 12, knowing that they don't necessarily have the academic appeal to join the Big 10? So you possibly get into Clemson there. Several other schools you can name off. Florida State. I like my chances better with Clemson than Florida State. The Louisville, Miami, who knows at this point. But I think that those are just some of my observations. But I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm feeling a lot better in terms of where Clemson is in terms of getting into the Big 12. And I guess maybe similar to the last caller, Gray. He mentioned Texas A&M as a possibility. What would be let's just say the Big 12 adds Clemson and Florida State, and their pay raise gets pretty. It's not the top two by any means, but it's right there, like right on. It's just near, it's about there. What are the chances that the appeal might lean towards Nebraska coming back? Because I know everybody's going to be talking about the money and everything, but the academics just simply aren't there, and there seems to be a lot of pressure at Nebraska in which, oh, you're not performing up to your academic expectations. We might just kick you to the curb. But I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
All right, I'll take your answer off the air. Okay.
Yeah, it works.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Call again.
Thank you.
In regards to Nebraska, they're not going to be leaving the Big Ten on their own. I don't think. And I don't think they're going to get kicked out. I don't believe that either. I do think that Nebraska, very good school, great, incredible brand, no question about it. Still is today. I just think it's a warning shot for other Big Ten universities, including the now president of Ohio State. So, in fact, we know it is. You're going to be measured now versus Nebraska, and you're going to have to eclipse Nebraska to come into the Big Ten when it comes to the ability to grow and sustain your research capacities. So that's one aspect, but I'm not going to go down there right now. Nebraska is going to be a Big Ten university tomorrow and in 10 years from now. So they just gotta, that's my belief. The people in Nebraska, they're a little bit more worried, but I'm not for them. The Big 12 getting Clemson and Florida State, that is an option, but they're gonna have to belly up to the bar, baby. They're gonna have to make it worth Clemson's and Florida State's worthwhile for those two universities to do it. Probably gonna give it a shot. They're probably gonna offer something when they can have first party talks. The Big 12 is no question they're having meetings on it internally. This whole studio just shook on that lightning strike. There is I say, look, Florida State and Clemson are just, they're in the catbird seat. They're gonna be. It just might not be the route that people believed it was months ago. Eventually, water seeks its own level. Eventually, the value of Florida State and Clemson are going to win out. They're going to get what they need to compete at the highest levels. This is the belief of BTM and his associates. They had nothing negative to say about those two universities. But they also agree that ain't the Big Ten. It's not what they're looking at. It's not what the SEC is looking at. They could come as a piece to the SEC, maybe to the Big Ten, but Florida State is not Big Ten school number 19. That has to be laid to rest. At some point, it will be when this story's over with. So there it is. Hopefully I answered John Grove's questions. Let me get to Super Chat. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and then have your notifications turned on. We here at Peek Around the Corner, we might do another live show tonight. If there's breaking news, we might come on later tonight. I got to go to a funeral here this afternoon. No, it's not mine. Not yet. But yeah, so I was going to be busy this afternoon, early evening. I wanted to make sure I could deliver this content to you. BTM and his associates. We had a sit down. We talked about it. I provided a picture of it. Well, anyways, so make sure you have your notifications turned on when you subscribe to our channel. Please smash the like button. I appreciate it. Breaking news. Kerry Gold knows Florida State lands top 247 wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon over USC, over Texas, over those evil Buckeyes, and over SMU. Congratulations, Florida State, I gotta say. Kerry Gold knows, and all the Florida State fans, go to Josh Pate's Twitter feed and go watch that 50-second clip on Florida State on that EA Sports game, EA 2025. That was intimidating just to watch, just to watch that video clip. I think they captured the Seminole fans, the passion, pretty accurately. Holy smokes. The Florida State Seminoles in the EA Sports 2025 game are going to have a home field advantage. I think that game is going to kick butt. I really do. I think I cannot wait to watch the boy, that storm is coming in. I can't wait to watch the simulation games. You know, where the game runs both teams, and there are YouTube channels that run them, like SG1 Sports is a YouTube channel you're going to want to check out once this new game comes out. I loved watching it from the 2014 game. This is going to be absolutely incredible. And it's a good way to learn, like, the players of the teams, you know, the right tackles. Now more than ever, because they're going to have the names on the uniforms. The announcers are going to be saying the names. It's just a way to then you learn their offensive plays, because their playbooks are going to be heavily correlated to the real playbooks of the teams, and the stadiums, and the sounds, and the noise, and the bands, and oh my. I cannot wait. I know that Coach Coop, a Miami Hurricane, a great YouTube channel, fantastic YouTube channel. Coach Coop, he plays Miami seasons. He plays against the team, the opponent, but like every Friday night he has a simulation game where he watches as a fan. He has a watch party for a computer simulated game, Miami Hurricanes. He goes right through the season. He does it every year. And now it's going to be even more fun to watch because of the new EA Sports 2025. I don't know why I went down that road, but I don't even play video game, and I am getting excited. Hell of a get for Florida State. Dalen is a stud. Kerry Gold knows we aren't going anywhere. Oh, and Doc Gibbs, I saw you comment earlier. I completely understand that North Carolina State has a more connective tissue to North Carolina because of the Board of Governors. We've covered that story. We were the first ones on the story. We had show after show after show about the story. No question about it. North Carolina State is more connected to North Carolina than Virginia. Just look at the new authority that the North Carolina Board of Governors have, and the 24-member, the president of the Board of Governors. So, yeah, we've covered that story. I completely understand. I completely agree. Do we know what happened or changed on May 23rd? I think it's a combination of Something changed. Also, I think it's I did not know it yet. There was stuff out there that was known, but the door was not open to me. It opened on May 23rd. So I think that's a large part to do with it. And now we're getting on, July 23rd will be 2 months since May 23rd. I think more people are starting to sense what I've been saying since May 23rd. And I believe in due time, more people are going to understand what we've just described since May 23rd and on this show today. Florida State and Clemson are in the catbird seat. They got a lot of value. They're going to get what they need eventually. You can't stop it. It's the free market. But it might not go exactly, especially way the message boards are explaining it. But you know what? Stay with us here at Peek Around the Corner as we cover this story and many others. And we're going to continue to give the Peek Around the Corner. We're going to shut down this live show right now. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I got to get ready for the funeral. No, it's not my own. Buckle up. Brace for impact. Make sure you hit the subscribe button because we might have to come on again. A second live show later tonight or Sunday. Who knows? But until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.